warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello students, how are you today? I hope you are feeling well, and now I'm so glad to greet you. Students, before we start our learning activities today, it will be nice for us to pray together according to our respective religions and beliefs. Prayer begins. Prayer over? Okay, good. Now I will check the attendance of students today. Are there any students who are absent? Nothing? Great, let's move on. Students, do you know how animals and plants can survive? Yeah, great. Animals and plants can survive by adapting. But do you know how animals and plants adapt? Not yet? Okay, don't worry, because in learning activities today, we will learn about adapting of living things, especially animals and plants. The learning objectives that we will carry out are as follows. First, students can know the meaning and purpose of adaptation. Second, students can identify the types of adaptation in animals and plants. Third, students can analyze the characteristics of animals and plants based on how they adapt. Fourth, students can make a mind map about the adaptation of animals and plants. Fifth, students can show the characteristics of animals and plants based on the type of adaptation. The subject matter that we will learn today is first, meaning of adaptation. Second, purpose of adaptation. Third, adaptation types. Fourth, adaptation on animals. And fifth, adaptation on plants. Students, do you know the meaning of adaptation is? Okay, adaptation theory, also known as survival theory or survival of the fittest, is an organism's ability to adapt to change in its environment and adjust accordingly over time. An adaptation is a characteristic of a living thing that helps it survive in its environment. An environment includes everything living and non-living in the area that a plant or animal lives in. All living things have adaptation, even humans. Next, do you know what is the purpose of adaptation? Yeah, great. Adaptation has many goals, but the core of the purpose of adaptation is to protect against enemies or predators, to be able to get food and for survival. Students, now please open your science book and read about the types of adaptation. It's finished? Okay, from what you read earlier, what are types of adaptations? Yeah, there are structural adaptation, physiological adaptation, and behavioral adaptation. A structural adaptation is a change involving a physical aspect of an organism. The physical change is often related to a change in the organism's physical environment. These involve the physical features of an organism that help them to survive in the environment, including the different types of terrestrial habitat. The physical changes are related to the change in the physical environment. For example, an ecosystem suddenly becoming forested might cause the animal living there to develop sections, paths, or climbing claws, which will convey a distinct advantage over species that did not change. Structural adaptation of plants can include spines, like those found on a cactus or rose. Like structural adaptation, the physiological adaptation also involves physical change in the species. However, physiological adaptations are not always seen in the organism appearance. This type of adaptation can be either due to the change in the environment or due to the behavior of other species. For example, of physiological adaptation include developing greater intelligence and improving descent. One example of a physiological adaptation seen in plants is the creation of poison for defense. The nightshade plants, for example, produce poison so that it is not consumed. Behavioral adaptation is the change affecting the way an organism naturally acts. This type of adaptation could be caused by a change in the surrounding environment or the action of another species. For example, predatory animals might start hunting in packs, giving them an evolutionary advantage over solo hunters. An example of a behavioral adaptation in plants is vines climb up trees to catch sunlight. Okay, now please make 4 groups with 5 to 6 members each. If so, please gather with your respective groups and watch the learning videos that I shared. Are you done viewing? Okay, great. Now please take the colored paper provided and make a mind map on the adaptation of animals and plants based on the types of adaptation. If you don't make a mind map, present it in front of the class. Okay, students, now you have made a mind map regarding the adaptation of animals and plants based on the types of adaptation. You have also presented the result of your mind map very well. And then based on the types adaptation, there are several examples of adaptation of animals and plants. An example of structural adaptation in animals can be seen in the shapes of a duck's beak, the base of which is like a comb so that it can help ducks filter food from water and mud. In addition, there are eagle claws that are short and sharp in order to grip their prey when they are targeted while flying. An example of a structural adaptation in plants can be seen in the shapes of the lotus leaf, which is thin and wide, so that it can float around its water habitat. In addition, the created lotus leaf can store water and has many stomata, so that the evaporation process can occur more quickly to avoid the decay process. Example of physiological adaptation in animals can be seen from squid, which have a dark black ink substance to trick their prey or as a tool to avoid predators. An example of physiological adaptation in plants can be seen from the corpse flower, as an insectivorous plant that emits an unpleasant odor to lure insects as its prey. Example of behavioral adaptation in animals can be seen from several animals such as desert rats, deer, or hedgehogs that hibernate when extreme weather arrives. In addition, there are penguins that roll their bodies when touched to protect the thin skin on their stomach. An example of behavioral adaptation in plants can be seen from thick trees dropping their leaves during the dry season to reduce the evaporation process. Okay, students, that's all of animals and plants adaptation based on adaptation types. So, from what we learned today, we can conclude that adaptation is a mutation or genetic change that helps an organism survive in its environment. Therefore, different species of animals and plants will have unique sets of adaptation that allow them to survive in their own environments, as well as obtain nutrients, produce offspring, and protect themselves from predators in a way that is exclusive to this species. Now we have done the learning activities. How do you feel, students? It's a relief to see you guys so happy and active. And I think that's all of our learning today. Keep motivated, keep healthy, and take care of the environment around you. So, before we end the study, let's pray according to each religion and belief. Prayer begins. Prayer over. Thanks for your attention to me. Wassalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.